Hey everybody, went over to the land airport today to do just a little investigation on a off-field landing. The airplane was a Zenith 750 and it was flown by a friend of ours. Nobody got hurt, but the airplane flipped over. So I went over there met up with an FAA inspector. It was just an incident, so it was more of a fact-finding procedure than any blame throwing or anything like that. Did get just a little bit of video and some pictures. We did find the problem, which was basically, we'll let you know what that is at the end of the video, but the first little bit you see in the video is going to be a battery charger. Now the lead up to this was that the batteries had been charged a few times, drained a few times, left masters on and all that. But none of the lead up stuff that we discussed as response to people's questions on forums and our own group and everything really was the cause of the off airport landing. So let's show some pictures and just kind of talk about the pictures and what they show. Then of course we want to find out what really happened. We understand more than anyone that an aircraft is a combined thing of fuel systems, electrical systems, engines, switches, pilots, everyone that's involved operating an airplane has some say in what an outcome is going to be in regards to landing off airport. There's a reason for why the airplane ended up landing off airport. So prior to this, the speculation was that on our part, knowing from talking to the pilot, the symptoms were very much in tune with the running out of electrical juice to operate the engine and the fuel pumps. And this was through the slow and gradual increase in sputtering of the engine as it was dying based on not being supplied with the essential electricity that it needs. We were a little puzzled about why it wasn't running on the alternator, because it can run on the alternator without the batteries being present. Some information that was given was that the battery master switches had been left on for a long time and the batteries had been discharged drastically, and this had then been recharged and the batteries would not hold charge, so they've been charged again and then the airplane was kind of put in a cautionary flying pattern as far as don't leave the airport traffic area type of thing, and just monitor the batteries and the voltage, and everybody had agreed to that except on this day, due to a birthday and some quick decisions about giving a ride to someone, the airplane departed the pattern and ran out of electricity and ended up landing in a field. So the thought was that this charging had then hurt the batteries, and speculation about that, and that's kind of like what I was thinking without having looked at the airplane. So here's a picture of that charger that was used to recharge the batteries, and of course these are lithium batteries. So we were thinking that the lithium batteries might have gotten damaged due to using an inappropriate charger for these batteries. This next picture is the voltage measurement of one of the two batteries after the incident. The battery was completely dead, 0.5 volts, 0.75 volts, and the other battery was 9 volts, or 8.75 volts, which for a lithium battery, as this next chart will show, is completely dead. As you can see from this chart, with in regards to lithium batteries, 9 volts is actually a completely discharged battery with 0% left capacity. You actually have to have 13.5 volts to have a decent lithium battery. This chart is important for someone that's flying an airplane with a lithium battery to maybe copy and paste on the instrument panel, because you're not looking for 12.5 volts like you would in a lead acid battery situation. If you had 12.5 volts, you're almost have a dead battery. On this next clip, you will see that there's some talk in regards to the observation in the cockpit being that the display unit showing the engine information about temperatures and voltage and all that was going dim, which shows a misunderstanding of reading the monitor, because the monitor clearly shows in the bottom left corner when the voltage goes down that the voltage or the alternator is no longer charging. But the explanation from the pilot was that there was no such explanation. It was just that the whole instrument was going dim, and thereby suspecting a low voltage situation.
That's going bad.
Just your display's getting dim.
This display's getting
Yeah,
down,
yeah.
but you know.
Yeah, you couldn't get back. Couldn't get back. Yeah.
I'm used to. It's like both of us are holding the props.
Everything works with that turned off, doesn't it?
With this
The
disconnected?
ignition switch turned off, everything else in the airplane works.
Yeah, it's running. It's then running off of.
Yeah.
We didn't prove that it runs on the alternator because we had this on.
Oh,
But let's take this off after we start
yeah,
it again.
I guarantee it's going to work. But.
So, well, let's fire it up first for cranking, and
Okay.
then we'll.
Yeah. Thinking about it.
Okay, so also we're documenting that both batteries have gotten a little bit of charge now. We have disconnected our charger externally. We can turn both batteries off, and the engine will now run on the alternator, and it is charging just from the alternator, so it doesn't need the batteries. Now if we turn off the alternator, the whole thing's going to come down. So that's another. So everything is working as it should in the airplane. Looks like the alternator was just not turned on.
And everything The problem with this airplane is everything looks like it's normal, kind of.
Alternator switch.
I mean, it's really the alternator switch, isn't it?
Because
It's the alternator switch, ignition switch, but it's really the alternator switch.
right, it does two things. It cranks the engine and it keeps the alternator alive.
Powers, that's the word. Yeah.
Yeah, once you let go of the switch. If you turn it one too many this way, it's off. So now we see, we're going to draw a little conclusion from what we've seen. Basically, we would like to see some labels in this airplane, clearly marking, the alternator on, off, and maybe a little more training as far as being able to read the engine monitor properly, because the cause of the off-airport landing here was clearly and directly pilot error. It was inadvertently leaving the alternator off, not recognizing the lack of charge to the batteries, and I was even surprised that this was the outcome, because the other things that led up to this, as far as the discharged batteries and the inappropriate charger and stuff, seemed like that could have been the culprit. The airplane, in fact, still runs good today. The only procedure that would have had to be implemented in flight to get the engine to run again, or to provide electricity to it, would have been to turn the alternator on. Now, as far as future changes, I have always been in favor of wiring an alternator directly to the main bus, so that the alternator is on when the engine is on. The alternator comes off when the engine is off. Of course, the one thing that has to be worked out with that is that you also have to be able to stop the engine. And so that's something that needs to be worked out. But you cannot make an airplane idiot-proof. You do have to have procedures. Certain things have to have a switch to be able to turn it on and off. But we'll look into the wire diagram and see if we can make it further pilot-friendly and proof.